4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You are now listening to the iWalter Show. Real talk about nothing.
Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Good morning, everyone. This is iWalter on Tuesday morning. Yeah, you know what? I wasn't sure if I was going to do a show or not because I actually, don't know what to talk about. And I always have something to say. But, yeah, I tell you one thing. Well, I'm still thinking about that Taylor Swift concert. I really did enjoy it. I just didn't like where I was sitting. And again, it was a shame because there was these two girls, they were very cute, I sat next to. And I was hoping, but they were really nice. They were very friendly. It looked like more like college kids, which was fine with me because, you're going to a Taylor Swift concert, the last thing you're going to do is, believe it or not, get too rowdy. Not like the younger ones, like I'm talking tweens. But, the closer you get up front, you just got more of these tweens when you got near the VIP section, and that was just a nightmare. Obviously, they don't pay the bills. They don't buy, they didn't buy their own tickets because I looked it up online, and Taylor Swift's playing, I guess, near where she lives at some point in time. I guess she probably wants to make a pit stop at her apartment in New York. So she's playing, in Jersey, but it's so far, up in North Jersey, this one stop she's doing, that it's technically not far from New York. I mean, it's like, it's very close. So I figured, hey, that would be kind of cool. It's like a 2-hour drive, which is exactly how long it takes me to get to New York from where I live in Philadelphia, outskirts of Philly. And it was like, okay, it was like a little over 2 hours. It's like, wow, that's a hike. They're like literally probably going near Newark, I'm sure. It's not Newark, though. It's in New Jersey still, but it's, that far up. You probably see New York from where this place is. I'm sure you could. I can't remember the name of the place, but I know it's in North Jersey. And it's 2 hours from where I live. And, what was I going to say? The tickets for VIP, I was like, well, let me see if she's got any VIP, because I mentioned this, I think, last night, that I had saw some people who actually got a picture of Taylor Swift, and it's like, that's pretty cool. So the grandiose VIP ticket, which none of them really do include meeting Taylor Swift, so I don't know how they did it. But the top-notch ticket for a VIP up in New Jersey is $2,100. So right away, that just set up a red flag for me. Any of those kids that were sitting in that VIP section, and there was sections of these kids that were grouped together in a half a dozen or more. Their parents must have forked out for each child around $2,000 or, slightly less. So you think about that, that's like $12,000 for, these 6 kids to be seriously obnoxious. So it's like, you parents out there, you need to kind of tone it down a little bit and maybe not give your kids everything they want. I don't care if they're your only daughter or whatever. It's not worth it. And it just doesn't teach these kids any discipline whatsoever. I'm sorry. So that was the only part I didn't like about it. For the most part, where I was sitting originally, which was the wrong seat, the kids were very nice. They probably weren't kids, but I'm just saying that because of my age. I just think of them as kids. But it was very pleasant to sit next to somebody who wasn't trying to knock you over or push you or act very, very arrogant. I just can't deal with that. And I know a friend told me, she said, now, Walter, are going to be a lot of young kids there. So, basically compose myself because she knows, friend at work knows I have a bad temper. And it was like, when I first got there, it was like, well, I'm sitting next to some really nice people. These two girls, they were very friendly. And, it was like, well, I guess my friend was wrong. But then when I moved, finding out I was in the wrong seat 2 times in a row, it was like, oh my God, she was so right. I'm ready to kill these kids. And I'm not talking, there was 2 people next to me, actually. A mom and her daughter, who was probably only like 9 years old. And I felt bad for her and her daughter because I wasn't being much of a good person, but these girls that were in front of me were much worse. I mean, not pointing fingers, not to mean to point fingers, but it's like I paid like $130 for my ticket, so I'm sure they did too. Even that's like $1,000 for all 6 of these young kids that were being completely obnoxious. But the little girl, it was like great that her mom had taken her. She got a nice seat, but the poor girl had a horrible, horrible seat. And I like a couple times I felt so bad. Like, this little kid is at this concert. She probably wanted to see Taylor Swift so bad. She couldn't see a thing. And I was compelled to, like, give my seat up and, like, give it to her. And it was like, wait a minute. It's not going to make any difference because these girls are jumping in front of us. Were just being so obnoxious, jumping. They had the seats tied together with tie wraps, and they were, fish ties. And they were cutting them. And then, like, just going through. They were being as obnoxious as they could possibly be. And it was like, okay, this is pointless. Yes, I am listening to the friend that told me, just compose yourself. Don't lose your temper on these people. And it was, it had taken every strand of my strength not to, like, just flip out because it was just really getting on my nerves. But, I mean, the concert itself was incredible. It's just a shame that you have to deal with certain riffraff. Even in, like, younger generation, I know probably not the right word to use, but I'm using it. So anyway, that was, it had its ups and downs. Overall, I enjoyed myself. I just felt really bad. I did take, like, I would say that night I must have taken 200-300 pictures. And that was between my cell phone and my camera that I ended up bringing in because I was allowed to. So that wasn't too bad. Out of those 200-300 pictures, I might have got like 20 that looked like, okay, I'm going to keep these. And some of those weren't even that great. But, it's like at a point when I was getting like, okay, I got 10 out of that 200-300 pictures. I'm going to have to be a little bit more, okay, they're not going to be perfect, but I'll put them up. So, on Sunday morning, I put those up on my Facebook page when I got home. So they are up on my Facebook page. Anyway, that was what did not get me upset. It's just like on my Facebook, I looked for different articles that I liked or added as friends because of what they write. It's usually pretty interesting. So it got me so upset yesterday. It was like, and it reminded me of one friend who, I don't know if he realizes he does it, but he constantly puts me down. He makes it like I'm the person who had opened up Pandora's box and had let out all the evil in the world. Like, so I get tired of it after a while, and he reminds me how, me and him are both very immature. It's like, well, you can speak for yourself, but, I basically, my father told me when I was 16, he actually, one time, it's kind of freaked me out, but my father, who's a really tough kind of person, like he doesn't show emotions hardly at all, broke down in front of me, and he started crying, and he said, you know what, you've really carried your cross all your life. And this was when I was 16, and now I'm like 48. So if I've been carrying my cross before I was even 16, at the age of 16, and before that, can you imagine what another 30-some years has done to me? So I'm at the point that, when somebody tells me, well, you're being immature, you're not helping society, I'm just paraphrasing. It gets on my nerves. It really does. It's like, tell me how to change my life. It's not going to change anything. I'm going to go to my grave, and you're going to be telling me how I need to improve upon things, which was kind of an irony, because I have a brother. I have two older brothers. One was in the military. He actually he made a career out of the Air Force, and he retired. That's my oldest brother. I have another brother who works in the Justice Department down in Washington, D.C. He's been there for years. He doesn't like the job, though. And he got married years ago. Both of them were married. No, I'm not. And both of them kind of got basically, I'm not going to use the word, I'm going to be kind of kind, but they both got pee-whipped by their wives. But my brother John, who that's my middle brother, my oldest brother's name's Vincent. He looked like the type that wouldn't have people tell him what to do. He looked like the type who knew how to stand on his own 2 feet. I mean, he works for the government worked and still does for over, I would say, 20-some years, maybe something like that. And he graduated from Georgetown University. He was very smart. He graduated from high school at 17 and went right to college. And my dad wasn't happy because he picked a very expensive school. So, but yet he lets his wife tell him what to do. And he had an apartment on Pennsylvania Avenue, and he got it really at a good deal because at the time they were changing these apartments into condos, and it was in a very, it's Pennsylvania Avenue, so it's a very good section. So he had it for years. He had it fixed up. It was very nice. I remember when I was in my early 20s, I went down and had seen it, and it was incredible. But his wife, a place he lived for quite a long time, had convinced him, we need to sell this and we need to get something else. She also convinced him that we need to get a dog because she liked dogs. And when they got married, by the way, she quit her job and just basically depended on him. So, whatever she asked, he would do. Both of them were like that. I hate to say it. I love my brothers, but they both let somebody else tell them what to do. That is why I'm not in a relationship with any woman, because probably never will be. Because anytime a woman tells me what to do, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be sarcastic, or anybody in general. It doesn't have to be just a woman. Even a friend tells me how I should run my life. You're definitely treading on really thin water, and it doesn't last too long before I lose my temper. Or I just get passive aggressive and they just get tired of me. Either way, it just is very irritating. Anyway, my brother, though, he, I know hey, the show is whatever I decide to make it that night. He now, has, he listened to his wife. They moved like 3 times in the past year. He sold his condo on Pennsylvania Avenue. His condo was really nice. Got it all fixed up. He really regretted selling it to move into something bigger because his wife wanted the dog. And it was like, we need a bigger place for the dog to get around. It was like, well, maybe you never had a dog before. Now all of a sudden you want a dog because your wife wants one. So the place they moved into was a disaster area. It was very expensive, so he ended up selling that. His wife convinced him to buy a townhouse. And he now called at 11 o'clock last night and said, I really just want to move back into a condo. I can't deal with, and where they moved, I don't know where it is, was so far away because he doesn't drive. He has a driver's license. He's had one since he was 16. But he's never driven a car. If you put him behind a wheel, he'll end up smashing up whatever you give him. So he's never owned a car. He is probably making over six figures, has been. And because of listening to his wife, he has regrettably done everything she has told him to do. That's why I don't listen to people at all. I don't care who it is. Anyway, so he told my parents last night, he says, yeah, I really want to move back to a condo, something closer to in the city of, or the District of Columbia, D.C., because he doesn't drive. Where he lived, everything was in walking distance. He didn't need a car anyway. Now he needs to take public transportation. He can't stand it. And he can't stand having a place that you have a lawn, because years ago, when he was long time ago, when we were all living at home, my brothers and I, he hated doing any yard work. He hated doing any physical work. So he ran over a sewage pipe in the front lawn and bent the shaft on our lawnmower. And it was after that, they said, you know what, don't worry about it. You don't have to cut the lawn anymore. You already ruined the mower, so don't worry. So he's not for yard work. He doesn't need a house. I know I don't. But anyway, going back to my friend, he's convinced that, yeah, well, at your age, you should have owned your own home. You should be married, and you should be, having kids. Well, none of the above are me. My brother John never had kids. He just has somebody tell him what to do. So who's better off, me or him? Yes, he's making over six figures, but he's got somebody who basically tells him what you should do all the time. I can't deal with that. So going back to my friend who told me, tells me all the time, well, you know what, you're being immature. You buy a lot of childish things and everything. Well, it's well, I hate to tell you, this is what got it started on me talking about this, or thinking about this the other day, actually, was because I hear him constantly. He's like a nagging voice in my head on what I should and should not do and how I'm not living my life correctly. Well, I hate to tell you, from the day I was born until now, until my last breath, I am not going to have somebody tell me what to do. And judging by what our society is, how messed up it is in the U.S., I definitely don't want to follow everybody else in everybody else's footsteps. So I found these articles. I didn't even try to look for them. They just popped up on Facebook because I have all these news sources. That's what I use for my shows most of the time. And there was this one that really just was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And it says, welfare queen doesn't need a job because of taxpayer-backed government checks each month. And the woman, she looks like she's African-American. She's never worked one day in her life as an adult. And she had free living assistance. She's got 4 kids, no husband. And she has no intention of ever getting the job. And that was yesterday I posted this. And it was on joeforamerica.com. And it was I've heard about this before. And it was okay, this is just crazy. I'm being told what I'm doing wrong. But idiots like that can do whatever. And she's got tattoos all over her body. She does anything she wants. I even have a cousin who steals from his mother, who's retired. Never worked a day in his life. He just does drugs, and he's a big BSer. Everything that comes out of his mouth is just BS, but people seem to cling to him like he's gold, except my relatives. And he has a BMW that somebody gave to him. It's not a great brand new one. So you got people who don't even try, contribute nothing to society, but yet they get everything they want. They spend whatever they want to spend. They do whatever they want to do. But again, this one friend or make it out that maybe if I would change and he would change, the whole fabric of the universe will change because of us too. And it's like, don't drag me into this, and it's not going to change. I mean, and the amount of money I spend on stuff, I do buy a lot of wasteful things, Blu-ray box sets, DVD box sets, T-shirts, toys, whatever you want to call it. But you're talking a difference between 10 grand, I'm figuratively speaking, for a year, even concerts, compared to somebody who is spending a couple $100,000 and never worked a day in her life for any of it, and just spending other people's money. And if it's not from the government, it's because they're stealing it some way or another. So that does not make any sense. And I went off on him. I emailed him and I said, basically, this is ridiculous. And I made the mention. I was being tongue-in-cheek. I wasn't being serious. I said, you know what is even the purpose of going on anymore? Because if I did myself in, you would have to take the blame off of me, the personal blame, and then put the blame on somebody else, because you will find somebody else if I would do myself in. So he commented back on the phone. He didn't even leave a voicemail because he was trying to think of something to say back to, basically I had him, I call it, I had him in checkmate. That's the way I thought of it. So he had no way to get out of it. So his response was, well, maybe you need you need to see somebody. You need to get some psychiatric help. Okay, so I'm complaining about people who make no effort. I'm reading articles how the healthcare system has been totally demolished. It's been destroyed from President Barack Obama, and how they're not going to do anything about that. You got these people who just sponge off the government. You have people who are coming into our country and no one to stop them, illegal immigrants who are being, the press and the media make it out like they're being victimized. So they get free health care. They get government assistance, EBT cards, you name it. And even, basically a free living situation. And most of them, this has been happening for years, but it's gotten progressively worse. They get to live tax-free for 10 years in our country. And, if they're on a work visa or something like that, after the 10 years, they don't want to stay here. They want to go back home with all the money they made that they didn't have to pay taxes on. So it's stuff like that he didn't read between the lines on what I was writing, and he looked at it literally just because he would find a way to just kind of make me look like I'm a nutcase. And it's like, you know what, say what you like, I don't care, but you should have read between the lines. That's all I wanted to say. Anyway, and it was another one that got me upset. I mean, it's like an avalanche. I mean, I saw these videos or these articles, even this one article where a woman found it entertaining to blowtorch a dog to death. And it was all videotaped and put on YouTube. And she was laughing. And I mean, you see nutcases like that. I mean, I have a woman who lives next door to me. This woman and her daughter who moved back home. Now, her daughter is some high executive for some big company. And she's got highbrow friends. And this woman's daughter is a nutcase. This woman's daughter is older than me. I'm almost 50. She's got to be pushing her 60s. She's never been married. She moved back home simply because she claimed that her neighbors, where she lived in some really ritzy apartment, were spying on her or staring at her all the time. And I looked it up. That's called paranoid schizophrenia. I don't suffer from that. Now, this woman, she's so crazy next door, this daughter, not the mom, but this daughter who moved back home, that she left a bag of recycle bags on top of her car and ran in the house and left them there. So I was running around yesterday. I come home, and this bag is still sitting there, and I didn't even see it. I didn't even bother to look. I don't even look over at this house. It's directly, their back of their house is facing the side of our house. So you got this paranoid schizophrenic daughter who lives in this house with her mom, and she apparently always assumes that we're spying on her. And she doesn't say it directly, but you kind of get the sense. And it kind of came out yesterday because I go in the house, my mother's laying on the couch, and she's like watching TV, and she said, "Oh yeah, that neighbor next door, our neighbor next door, left her purse on top of her car for 2 hours." And I came home and I said, "You let it sit there for 2 hours." Did knock at the door and asked them or tell them, "Listen, you left her purse, what appeared to be her purse, on top of her car." And I said, "You can't do that. You don't want to leave that, especially when they're facing right directly on a main road," because they do. So I was going out again anyway. I said, "Listen, you know what? I'll grab it. If it's her purse, you don't want to leave it there. I'll knock at the door and let them know you left your purse there." It wasn't their purse, though, because as I mentioned before, it's these recycle bags inside a recycle bag. So I knocked at the door, and it was the creepiest thing I've ever seen, folks. She had every shade blind, and it was in the afternoon, tightly closed. In the afternoon, it's like 93 degrees out. It is like daylight. She had every blind closed tight. It reminded me of like that movie Fright Night, where, oh, I can't let light come in. Or like one of these movies where the lunatics are chopping up people. So, or torturing people. So it makes you kind of like raise an eyebrow. And it's bi-level, so both floors, every single window was shut tight. Now, we have a front door where there's glass panes on both sides of the door. She's got those basically covered up too. Not with shades or anything, but she basically got them like dark or that you can't look in. And it was never like that years ago when it was just a mother. So the woman's a total nutcase. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that. And she will, if she sees us pulled up in the driveway, sure quickly, she's got like these vertical blinds for her back porch. She pulls them quickly across like they're flying. So, if you want to see a real nutcase, to my friend, you should check out other people and not just focus on me as being like, again, hey, you know what? If we put Walter and get him straightened out, everything else will just fall into place. The economy will fall into place. All the nutcases will go away. Everything will be like synchronized once I get straightened out. I hate to tell you, that is not the case. So anyway, there was that story. Well, that's not a story. That was something that happened to me yesterday. So that added to the pile of BS I had to deal with yesterday. And then I'm seeing there was an article. I didn't put up the article, though. It looks like. But this has been mentioned that now in California, they are going to raise minimum wage for fast food restaurants. That's basically entry-level jobs to $15 an hour. And one of the sources I just put up, but it was an article attached, was Right Wing News. So, yeah, and they said that California is going to have more people on unemployment than they do now because, one, not only are you paying people who don't want to better educate themselves, who get these jobs because they basically are dropouts from high school and everything else, you're not only paying them $15 an hour, you also have to pay for their health care benefits. So most of these companies are going to basically have to close down. They cannot survive on paying at a minimum wage job with, entry-level job that you give normally to kids, $15 an hour, but you're going to give it to adults who just don't really want to be bothered doing a real job, and taken away from the kids, and then you're on top of it, you have to pay their health benefits. So that was another one that just was like making me feel like a time bomb ready to go off. And then I'm keep on hearing these stories or seeing these stories one after another about this woman, Rachel, who claims she's an African American. She was born in a white family. Yeah, so it says a former student from participating in an ethics class activity for, and I'm not going to read on, but it's basically this woman. She got herself into the NAACP, saying that she still is convinced she's an African American. She was born, she had blonde hair and blue eyes, but yet she's African American. So, I mean, there's one article after another. It's become such a joke, and they're not going to stop it. So, stuff like that. And then there was a story, it was actually in myfoxphilly.com. I don't know, it was supposed to be a man got a sex change operation, transgender teacher commits suicide. I mean, it's like one ridiculous story. I'm sorry, one ridiculous story after another. And, yeah, it kind of gets to me after a while that these people are still breathing and taking things away from me, but yet everything is entirely my fault. So I get to the point, it's like, this is ridiculous. Why do I even continue on? I'm saying that theoretically, though, because you got all these morons that are just basically they're monopolizing the whole freaking country, and nobody's there to stop them because it's become like it's built up more momentum, and it's not stopping. But yet again, the focus goes back onto me. And it's all my fault, and I should focus more on myself and not worry about these other things. Okay, our country is collapsing, and I'm not supposed to think about this because I have the problem, not anybody else. It's my problem. Even though we're not going to have a country pretty soon. We're going to be, we're going to just fall apart. It's going to be chaos. So how can you not think about this? And there was an article, too. It was on Opposing Views. It says, man pleads guilty to raping stepdaughters, infected him with HIV. So you got all this goofy stuff going on, but again, the focus goes back that it's all entirely, if I change, the rest of the universe is going to change because of me. And it's like, I don't think that on that level, I don't think I'm like some superpower that, if I change my outlook, that everything else is going to change. No, it's not going to change. And I don't bury my head in the sand thinking that, if I just ignore it, it's going to go away, because it's not. It's gotten worse and worse because of people burying their head in the sand. So, you know what? That's the part that just got me really irritated. And when Frank called back and just basically threw this, well, I'm not professional, but you really need to get some help. That is like, you're trying to find some reason to put the blame back on me, and when you couldn't, you took the easy way out just by saying that, you know what, without saying it, though, that I'm nuts. Nobody else has got any problems. It's all me. And you're absolutely right. It's all me. So if I straighten my act out, even though we got people at work who sit on and watch movies all night at my job and get paid tons of money and come in for tons of overtime and do like in a 16-hour shift about 2 hours worth of work. Hey, if I change and I do more work within my 8 hours period of time, those people working 16 hours and not doing their job will fade away. Then I wake up, and then reality, which I am already in, tells a different story. Anyway, that's enough of that stuff. I'm actually sick of talking about it for now. But on a darker, lighter note, I don't know if you heard about, in North Carolina, there was 2 kids that got attacked by a bull shark. No, it was a tiger shark. I'm sorry. A what? It was a tiger shark. Anyway, there was a guy at work. It was his nephew who was the boy who got his arm chewed off by the shark. It was his actual nephew, and he didn't know that at first. And it was like, until he read the article and was like, wait a minute, that's my nephew. So that was pretty interesting. Somebody where I work, his nephew, who was the boy the 16-year-old who got his arm bitten off by a shark, was this guy's nephew where I work. So that was pretty interesting. I don't know if I like this, by the way. I'm just going to go on lighter, frivolous stories now. But they said Michael Myers to live again in Halloween returns. So they're making it, and it was on comingsoon.net. That is like the most, you talk about beating a dead horse, like my show tonight. That is really beating a dead horse. That should have been buried a long time ago, this whole Michael Myers thing. And I don't think Rob Zombie's going to do any more movies. I pray to God not on that, because I like him, but I didn't like that movie. So, here's another one. I got to go back because I saw this story just caught my eye right now on my Facebook page. But here again is, okay, put all the irresponsibility on me, and everybody else who is irresponsible, take it off them. And this story was captioned, this was from the Dreamin' Demon. Woman previously accused of leaving kids in a hot car does so again at the courthouse. So she was in for her court hearing, and she does the exact same thing again. She's an African American. Not that it has anything to do with anything, I'm just saying. So, okay, that's enough of me complaining about people just being idiots, but it's all my fault. So, basically, if I change, everybody else will change. Not. But I heard something on a lighter note, and I got the article twice, but it seems like Xbox now, if you have an Xbox One, will be backwards compatible as of the 15th, which was technically yesterday. So I was all really psyched because there was this one game I had when I had the 360, and it was called Unjust, the superhero video game. And it was like, crap, I had to sell it. So, unfortunately, though, there's only literally a dozen games right now that are backwards compatible with people who, like myself, who have the Xbox One, or the games from Xbox 360 will play on there through an emulator, which I assume that's what it was, and I did look into it, and it is. But yeah, there's only literally 12 games, I think, maybe less or more, but not by much. And none of those games were anything I was interested in. The game I wanted was Unjustice. So, that'll eventually probably come out anyway, because I said Unjust before it's Unjustice. Anyway, hey, another one on Stupidville, but I have to read this. It was from Bridgeport, Connecticut. It was in the Dreamin' Demon again, but just the title alone was entertaining enough. This woman hit a cop in the eye with a bloody tampon. Another African American, by the way. I just have to say that. This woman's 22 years old and did not appreciate police officer interrupting her van sexy time, so she protested by non-chucking one in the eye with a bloody tampon. Police responded to multiple complaints regretting a couple having sex in plain view in front. So the woman was having sex with some guy. She got pissed off, and the cop said that's not appropriate, apparently. So she takes a bloody... So she was having sex, and she was on no puns intended, she was on the rag. But she took a bloody tampon and threw it at the cop. So that is speechless, to say the least. But again, hey, you know what? If I straighten myself out, this would have not happened. This would have never been an issue if I was on the righteous path and not complaining and had more control of my own life, and if I had my own house and was more responsible for my money, none of this would have happened. So, hey, I'm glad that my friend gives me that much power. I really, really appreciate that. So, on another ridiculous note, though, which I'm really psyched about, I don't know why I buy these games. I got some games now that I bought for my Xbox One, and they are still in the shrink wrap. When I first bought the Xbox One, when I traded in, I had some extra money, which I took part of it as cash back. But the rest of it, not the rest of it, a few dollars, I bought a couple games, so it wouldn't be gameless. And the games were still in the shrink wrap when I exchanged them, okay, I'm not playing these games, can I just turn them in for cash? So I wasted money by buying games that I never had taken out of the shrink wrap. And I got games now that are in shrink wrap. Now, there's some games I will play, and they're the fighting games. I like the games you don't have to think about for more than 5 seconds, because that's as long as my attention span will go. So anyway, since I'm on that note, why I mentioned that was they now officially have a 8-minute trailer for the new Doom game that's coming out, but it's not coming out until the end of December, beginning of January. And they're not calling it Doom 4, which it would theoretically be. They're just calling it Doom. It's just a revamped version. And I hate to tell you, it's very gory, but it looks no different than Doom 3. The only difference is they add a little bit more of like a guy ripping a guy's arm off and beating a monster with the guy's arm that, was dead. Like beating, that was that old saying, oh, I'm beating you with your it's ridiculous. I mean, you're ripping limbs off and beating the crap out of these demonic monsters. I mean, but the graphics look no different than Doom 3. So, and you hear people when they were watching it, I think at this, and that was on bloodydisgusting.com. That's a horror website, folks. So, it was at the E3. It's basically for the games by id Software. They have their thing that came out, and it was about the new Doom game, which would technically be Doom 4, but it's just a revamp of Doom 3 that looks pretty much exactly the same. And people were cheering to watch this video, this 8-minute video of, your character ripping limbs off of dead body carcasses and beating monsters with it. I mean, it was a little goofy. I was actually surprised, by the way. I'm sure that number went up, but that I just want to mention this. It'll probably be the last thing, and I'll sign off. But the Jurassic Park World movie made over $200 million. I think that made more money, and that was the opening weekend. So I think that almost, I would guess, probably because I don't know what the end result was, it had to outdo even these superhero movies. When they usually open up, they make a ridiculous amount of money. But yeah, it made over $200,000 opening weekend, and it wasn't like any holiday. So that was pretty impressive, I guess. I know my mother wanted to take my father to see it, but she thought he would like it. I'm going to have to go see that at least. I know, as my one friend would say, well, I'm sure going to go see that movie, even though it's like a childish movie. Well, you tell these people that spend, these people who went and seen that movie and made it number one at over $200 million that are not kids, that they are just as childish as me, which is not the case. It's only me, though. So anyway, I harped on my friend enough, but for good reason. I'm sorry. I had no choice. I really had no choice. So, I think I dragged him through the streets long enough, and I dragged this story on long enough anyway, or this show tonight. So, everyone, have a good night, and I am signing off of iWalter once again.